But my friends, a life is full of lessons, and certainly as CEOs, it is even more full of lessons for us. And I want to just say I am so flippin' proud happy for all of you about having the CEO forum, and thank you, Steve, for inviting me to be a part of this. Because what a blessing. I mean, you all can come together. We all learn from each other and support each other as CEOs to help grow your business. And I know you're all here to grow your business. You're not startups. You are succeeding, and congratulations on that. It isn't easy. You're one of the few that is a percentage that is able to do that. And I have learned that the number one success factor for people that are in our business, that have never had business experience, and for any entrepreneur or any CEO, that the trait is that we're willing to learn. So I applaud you for being a part of this and being willing to learn, because that is how we succeed. So I'm honored to be here. So here's my purpose today. When Steve invited me, I thought, really, the one thing that I want to come away from is that just one of you, if even just one of you come out of this and you say, I found something, I have a takeaway that will help grow my business, maybe in just some really small way. And here's how I'm hoping to do that. I hope that when you leave here, you will think about how you influence thinking and how you influence the thinking of your team. And if you have salespeople, how you might influence them. But before I do that, what I'd like to do is, and I'm not sure what's up on screen and what's not. Is it my slide or is it me, Steve?
It's you. Yeah, it's the first slide.
Okay, and so you can take slides now and put me full screen. After we've had a chance to see the slides, that would be great. And thank you, Steve, for being my AV man. So first, I want to tell you a little bit about Tastefully Simple very quickly. We sell seasonings, we sell sauces and easy to prepare mixes. Beer bread is our #1 selling product. I think we have a slide for that. And so you can just get a feel for what types of products we have available. And we also introduced, we sell millions and millions of loaves of bountiful beer bread. You just add a can of beer, it's easy. And butter. And I'll talk about being a dairy farmer's daughter in just a bit. But anyway, the other products we introduced in 2017 are meal and entertaining kits, where you add the fresh, we add the flavor. So that's a newer market that we're in right now, but that you don't have the fresh food in it. You get your own fresh food, and we give you the recipes and the flavor. So it's really been our niche for 26 years, since 1995. And I'm going to have you hold on this slide, if you could, for a bit, Stephen. Just bring me full screen, because our niche for 26 years, since 1995. Is that we require no more than 2 ingredients: and open and enjoy. The way that we sell is through 3 channels, one of which is the website, which is through Amazon, which is only 5% of our revenue, and the third is really the biggest, is through our independent sales force and our consultants who earn commissions based on those sales. So we have online parties and cooking classes, and those have, of course, dramatically increased as opposed to tasting parties. But we're all about people-to-people, grassroots referral business. That's what we do. So the business was launched in Alexandria in a shed with no running water. And I have a picture of that if you want to show it, Steve. And it's quite impressive. We were not even in the whole, I was not even in the whole shed, just the front half of it. So it was very small. I was the only employee, the only salesperson, which we call consultants. My little Grand Am is in the front, and I drove that to parties, hosts who were having tasting parties in their homes, and loaded my inventory in the trunk. And over the years, we started shipping direct to clients. And I packed orders on a pool table. The whole entire building was far less than 2,000 square feet. So that was my inventory that I would pack into the back of my car and head off and let people taste the products. And it was an experiential, and still is an experiential process. I started Tastefully Simple when Steve, I have a photo of him, my late husband, and it's a picture of Zach when he was little, our only son. Steve passed away in 1998, 3 years into the business. He was not part of the business, but I was left to raise a 5-year-old son alone. and which was a whole nother speech on overcoming obstacles and overcoming fear. But the reason I bring this up at this point in the early business is because when I started Tastefully Simple, Steve and I had a household income of $25,000. Household annual income of $25,000. We had no money, absolutely no money. And I feel very, very blessed by that, because that is when we get creative, when we have no money. And I bootstrapped. And I bootstrapped with a $36,000 startup. I had $6,000 in savings, which sounds odd for a household income of $25,000. But I had received a gift of money from my grandfather of $10,000, and I kept $6,000 of that in savings for whatever I might need and want to invest in the future. And Tastefully Simple ended up being that investment. I had a $10,000 investment from a silent partner who had 30% of the shares, and I owned 70%. And since 2014, I have owned 100% of the business. And then I also had a $20,000 SBA loan. And the point of all this is you can't fall off the bottom. So here's the scoop. The first 14 years, Tastefully Simple, from 1995 to 2008, we grew. We've only sold domestically. We're not international. We grew to a sales force of 28,000 salespeople known as consultants. Our peak sales in 2008 were $143 million. This was built on 35 retail SKUs, and I had a line illustrated catalog. A line illustrated catalog. We were snowballing. Everything was rolling. We were getting larger and larger. And I can tell you, I was blessed beyond belief. I am a dairy farmer's daughter, raised in Villard, Minnesota, population 300. And I have a photo of the home farm that ended up burning in, it's no longer there, but that was the home in which my oldest brother died. That was a major change for me when I was 26 years old and he was 28. But this was my mom and my older brother Mike and myself and my other two brothers were in that home. I had a small town. Villard is. I had 18 kids in my graduating class, and I have a slide. 1976. I'm the one with long dark hair. Everybody had long dark hair in 1976. But anyway, I just want to also point out, I'm really, really proud of this. I was in the top 50%. Mic drop. Okay. So yes, I have been incredibly blessed. And I don't know if we can go off slides for a bit and go full screen. Does that work for you, Steve? So we'll come back in just a bit.
Not right now, I'm sorry.
You can just stay in it. Okay, we'll just stay in the slides. So what happened was I was just so blessed during, having a very humble beginnings in my life. And the lesson to me was, if at first you do succeed, try not to look astonished. But then what ended up happening is the snowball stopped rolling downhill and getting bigger, and the snowball started melting. Year after year, from 2009 through 2019, sales were down every single year for 11 years through 2019, 11 years. We had losses for 7 of those years up until last year. I call it the 7-year drought. We lost $32 million in our reserves. Plus, I ended up making the decision to make a personal loan of $5 million. Again, a whole nother speech in and of itself. We became profitable again in last year in 2020. And you might say, why? And my short answer of why the downhill roll and then why profit again, it was really the hand of God in perfect sequencing. I began leading the company personally and being an even more active role in the day-to-day about 3 years ago. And we began to really strengthen our core. We got back to what we were good at, got back to the foundation of the business, and worked on that for 3 years to simplify, get rid of crap, and just get down to the basics and become an entrepreneurial company again for our sales force. And we had started to switch our model, which created confusion, and a confused mind shuts down. So that was number one in the sequencing. And then number two, along came COVID. And although that was it's been a hell of a ride for a lot of people, it's been a hell of a ride in a good way for us because people were eating at home more, and we were the perfect solution. So that's a little bit of the backdrop of Tasteless Simple. And I want to just share that profitability, and this is no secret to any of you, or lack thereof, is really driven by three things. Processes, plan, and people. Our processes, our strategic plan, and our people. And we have to have all three. And I really would like my slide to come down, but I'm trying to think what my next slide is here.
It's a quote.
Yeah, we'll hold on that. Let's go back to the shed. Can we do that? Put that up instead. That'll be a little humble reminder of where we came from, right? Because we have to have all three of those, the processes, the plan, and the people. But today I'm going to primarily focus on the people and also the processes that have helped the people and helped me and the company stay alive during this time, because our plan is super critical and our strategies and the processes are vital. And to me, the most important ones are the one that help support our people. So some backdrop on the team and the people is we as a company had 3 RIFs, reduction in force, in our team and layoffs over a period of 3 years, starting in 2014. At our peak in 2008, we had 350 team members supporting that $143 million. I'm just going to tell you one of the lessons learned is we got fat and flabby. So that'll come back. I'm not going to go there either on this talk, but by January 1st of 2014, when our real true, we got to get down and dirty and figure this out, we were at 285 people. Those RIFs that we had during those a period of 3.5 years was we let go. The first 1 year was team 66, let go 66 people. The next year it was team 33. The next year it was team 17. We kept hoping we'd start to turn things around. Didn't happen. So 116 people were let go during that time frame. It was hellish, horrible years, horrible. On January 1st of 2018, we no longer had any more layoffs. We had 90 people left. And in that 1 year, in 2018 to 2019, in that 1 year, we lost 23 more people, not people I wanted to lose. So we were down to 73 team members, which is where we're right now, we're at about 70. So we've been able to maintain that for the last couple of years, and it's working. But what I want to point out for any of you who ever go through a turnaround time, which Lord forbid you ever do, but what I learned about was turnaround fatigue and fear. And when you have that, it's just a horrible storm of a lot of things going on. One of which was, people are scared. They are afraid they're going to lose their job. They're afraid we're going to close our doors. And so we lost a lot of people just through that whole process. They got tired of it all. Turnaround fatigue and fear. So what I want to talk about now then is why going from the shed to our new facility that we moved into in 2000 and then 2006 and moved into an expanded building. Why did those 73 people stick with us during 7 years of turnaround, of losses, 11 years of sales being down? And let me just point out, and no raises. We did not give them a pay raise in 7 flippin' years. And I believe, it's anecdotal, right? I believe that 90% of them stayed because of our culture and believing in us as a team and as a company. I want to say 10% were probably too scared to leave. They didn't like change and they just stayed because they didn't know what else they would do. And there might have been 20%, but still, I really believe it was built in the based in the foundation. I'm going to be forever grateful to every one of those people who stuck with us through these years. It was tough. And the sacrifices that they made and the loyalty, and they were passionate and dedicated, and they were still working their butts off to make this work. But it's working right now because we are now profitable. And sales at end of last year were up 58%. And again, a lot of it COVID related, and we were watching to see how much of it is what I call pandemic profits. But here's the most important thing that I've learned. It is that the thing that I have learned is that the one most important thing that we do as leaders is we influence thinking. We influence thinking. And because thoughts control emotions and emotions control actions every single time. Thoughts control emotions and emotions control actions every single time. So, and going through this, it's hard to give people hope, but when we have hope for the future, we have power in the present. When we have hope for the future, we have power in the present. And it was about still giving them hope without being unrealistic. And it was really difficult, but I was also very transparent. So how is it that we influence thinking? And the most important thing to me is to be crystal clear about what we think as CEOs and owners or owners. It's what do we think? What do we stand for? What do we believe in? What are our philosophies? And this became so evident to me when I don't know if we're able to pin me. Can you pin me, Steve? Instead of the PowerPoint, I don't know if that works.
Right now, I'd rather not put at risk all that we have. I could try, but then we might have others that are problems.
Okay, that's fine. So here's a story that I share about Zach, my son, he was 18 at the time. He's 28 now. After Steve died, Zach hadn't. I started to see a pattern where he never cried. He never cried. Into his teen years, even he didn't cry. And he went to counseling, and the counselor wasn't concerned about that. But you know, he had experienced a lot of death, and because I lost a couple of brothers, and his grandfather, and my dad, and my husband, and so a lot of death. And but anyway, one day I'm packing up to go on a business travel of some kind, and it was on a Sunday, and Zach was upset with me about something. He was a senior in high school, you know, senioritis. It was in March of this time of the year. And he came in and he started to really unload, and he was not a confrontational child, thank goodness. And because it could have been rough as a single parent. And he came in and he's just going off on me, and it just about, you know, how once you get in a role and he's crying, and I'm feeling so grateful that he's that upset that he's crying, and he hits me with one thing, not physically, but just verbally, you know, this and this and this. You could tell. A friend once said, you know, sometimes if resentments are like rocks in our pocket, you know, we start to put too many of them in our pocket, and pretty soon our pants fell off, and his pants fell off, and he was so upset with me. And I won't get into all of the different things, but he'd had his fill about stuff, and then at one point he stops and he says, midway through, one thing he said was, and by the way, I'm atheist. And I just waited and let him, and he waited for my reaction. I didn't have one, so he continues. Later on, when I was telling my friends this story, on a side note, they said, I told him that I went back and said, yeah, I know you don't like the quotes that I leave on the bathroom counter for you, but I'm gonna manage your expectations. When he got done with his diatribe after about probably 15 minutes. And I said, I'm going to just manage your expectations, Zach. I said, I'm still going to continue putting those quotes on your bathroom counter in the morning that come from the office, because they're good, because, you know, it's about putting good thoughts in our mind, because thoughts control emotions control action. I'm going to continue doing that. And the second thing that he brought up was he had said, they said to me, I'll come back to that. They said, my friend said to me, so what about the agnostic, or that he's an atheist? How did you respond to that? And I said, I didn't. I said, why? I said, because that's his journey. Anything I was doing was just letting him know that something wasn't going to change and manage his expectation. The other thing I came back to about was this comment. He said, and even our home looks like Tastefully Simple. I just watched for my reaction. I just let him keep going, just kind of nodded. And I came back to it at the end though, and I said, Zach, you know what? I want to make this correction. Our home does not look like Tastefully Simple. Tastefully Simple looks like our home. And I tell you this because what we believe in is our home, and what we believe filters out in everything we do. It's my truth. It's reflected in our principles, but it's our truth, because everything you do and say shows the world who you really are. And I have a slide for this one. Let it be the truth. This is an Oprah Winfrey quote that I just love. Everything you do and say shows the world who you really are. Let it be the truth. So our principles and our values and what we stand for is our truth. So then now what do we do to influence thinking and ensure that everyone knows what our beliefs are? And here's what I say is it's by being intentional, and it's by consistently sharing them. And the way that we do that and how we're intentional, and you can wait on this one slide, if you can go back to the other one, is to be intentional it's about the processes. Processes are what make us intentional. And so I want to share some of the things that we've done. Is the first thing is, and you guys have probably done this within your companies, and sometimes we have to go back and brush them off, right? And we did that as well. So the first thing is to schedule time to build that drum and to know that you're going to beat the drum with those principles and your values, and schedule the time to build the drum. And so what in 1997, in the second year of Tastefully Simple, I spent a half a day getting together with my 3 team members. We had 3 of us working, 4 of us, I think. No, 3 of us that worked in the office by that point. And we created our core values. And here's what the question was, is what do we not want to be known for as a company? And everybody put their answers on a Post-it note, 1 word, a short phrase. What do we not want to be known for as a company? And then we did the reverse of that to say, who do we want to be then? It was a great process. And then I ended up taking those buckets that we put together and boiling those down into 7 statements that became our core values. However, they were really wordy and too wordy. And so that was the thing. We took the time, though, to build the drum. What are our core values? What do we stand for? The second thing is we consistently beat on that drum by onboarding anybody new coming into the company. I personally do the principles training. Also for our consultants, when we have our conference annually, we have a session just about our principles for those new consultants. And we beat the drum by having the training on a regular basis. The second thing we do is always share stories. And I did that through the book, Simply Shine. I don't have a PowerPoint of that, but here's the book. And by the way, this book, Simply Shine, is based on our principles with stories under each of them, personal stories and business stories. It's just kind of my life journey around abundance, magic, and realness. And so if you want this book, because stories are so important to beat the drum, there was a Minnesota marketing campaign to explore Minnesota about 30 years ago. I still remember it though. The tagline was, take home a story. Take home a story. So how are you memorializing those stories? I put them in a book. If you want the paperback copy of this book, feel free to email me at jill.strahan@tastefullysimple.com. jill.strahan@tastefullysimple.com, and I'll send it to you. So you beat on that drum through your training, by sharing those stories in some memorialized way, and also physical reminders. And you guys get the joke on this. You know, your principles in your lobby. They're right in the center of our lobby, huge, framed. And there I have an example of that. We talk about that as at all of our tours. We have these principles at our desk. We have them in our consultant welcome book when they get their business blast-off kit. So I'll talk to these principles in just a bit, but the third thing I want to mention is then you hire to your principles as well of be abundant, make magic, do your best, and be real. We put our all of our questions are behavioral based, and they're all questions asking under the bucket of the new person being interviewed doesn't know it, but we might say, give us an example of a time you celebrated. Give us an example of a time you admitted a mistake. Give us an example of a time you found a win-win solution. All of them. Give us an example of a time you created a great strategy, which would be the be your best part of that. But all of them are about that. And we hire first for culture, always. If someone is not a culture fit, we do not hire them. And so that is where how I see the beating of the drum and being intentional through the process of how you beat that drum. And in all of it is about keeping it simple, my friends, because I'll tell you, I reserve the right to get smarter. I could not repeat those 7 core values. I couldn't. It was too much. It was less is more. And so I boiled those core values down to originally 3 laws. And then we did a maintenance check, if you will, on that drum last year. We started working with Traction 2 or 3 years ago. And a year ago, we decided to look at I said, our principles are great. We're not going to, well, we ended up adding a 4th principle that I had combined into one. And I moved away from calling them laws to just making them statements of be abundant, make magic, do your best, and be real. The other thing that I did back in 1999, when I boiled down all those core values into only 3 principles, which are now 4, I also had a descriptor, and I thought, I want to describe what this means to everybody in our team so they understand what each of these represent. So, because there was, and so you'll see each of the descriptors here is 7 words or less. So here's what I learned in a group called, and you guys may have heard about it, called Strategic Coach. I invested in the Strategic Coach program 3 years ago, I think, and I just did it for 1 year, and it was great. And we still had no profits. I mean, I was making that investment, which was sizable, to go to Chicago quarterly for this full day meeting. And one of the things that I heard in one of those sessions, quarterly sessions, was Lee Brower talking about concepts and the difference between kind of the concept versus the tactic. So people retain a concept and they learn it and they internalize it more, a concept, than just having tactics. So just giving people tactics doesn't mean anything. What is most important is the concept of what you're doing and why you're doing it. And the tactic is the behavior and how you do it. So you can go back again, if you would, to the principles on the slide. So in these principles, when you look at them, I'll talk through each of them in more specifically, but you influence thinking when you explain the why and explain the concept, not just the tactic. So what I did in 2017 is I memorialized the specific behaviors. I had different versions at first during those years, and then I ended up simplifying it last year because of traction. And I came down to describe these in an even deeper way by creating a 1-page document that's called the Tastefully Simple Way, which is a slide, which are the 22 behaviors to live our principles. Now, I don't expect you to be able to read this because you're all going to be up there with a microscope, but I'm going to walk through each of those with you in just a bit. But I brought it down to one page, which is hard to, again, the most complex thing we'll ever do is make something simple. So what I did then was, I'm going to walk through each of these principles and talk about how we influence thinking with this process of having the Tastefully Simple Way and our principles, and how we're beating that drum consistently and intentionally, and how that then impacts our people. So I'm going to go with the first one, which is be abundant and foster peace of mind through win-win attitudes. I have a slide for this. Again, as you look at this, for be abundant is, the principle is be abundant. The concept is you want to foster peace of mind. So why would somebody want to be abundant? And I believe when my head hits a pillow, and this is what I had to think through a lot in 1999, is I thought, what is it about abundancy? Why do I care? And it's because I want to foster peace of mind and feel good when my head hits the pillow at the end of the day because I've done the right thing. And I haven't been in an adversarial scarcity mentality of win-lose, but I'm rather about win-win. And so often, Tom Weiss, a friend of mine from Minneapolis who has Studio E, he once said, a lot of times people look at a situation, at everything as a nail, and we're the hammer. And I wanted to avoid that. And so you'll see that this is 7 words, and yes, a hyphenated word counts as 1 word. So the behaviors that were on that earlier sheet that we don't have to go back to, Steve, but are things like work hard to find solutions where everyone wins. And the second one is respect people, and how you do that, like do unto others as you would have done unto you. Our choice of words as well as our tone, eye contact, posture demonstrates our respect. The third is look for the good in others. And the descriptor is take the high road, no finger pointing or judging, and assume people are acting with good intentions. Number 4, hear people out. Seek first to ask questions and seek first to understand. We cannot resolve what we don't know exists. Number 4, protect each other like family, care about one another, and have an I have your back mentality. And the 6th one is to nurture the community in which you live. And the descriptor for this one says, tithing, giving back 10% of our income to a cause greater than us, is paying rent for the earth we walk on and the sun in which we bask. If not money, your time is a priceless gift. And on a side note with tithing, the reason the team stuck with me, and this influences thinking, even when we were unable to tithe anymore because we had no profit, the team knew from our behavior in the past, that we loved and supported our community, and they trusted us in that. They trusted when we couldn't give back anymore. They knew that we would do that as soon as we had profits again. And I can almost guarantee you that that is why many of those team members, those 73 that stayed with us, stayed through it. And we've had some that have retired since that time. But I'll also talk about the share being abundant is also about sharing information, because when we have a scarcity mentality, we hold all the information. We don't want to share it with our team. We have had a monthly all-team meeting almost for all 26 years, where we give them updates and information sharing on many things, but most of which is around what we call our GSD, which is our one-page strategy, which stands for Get Shit Done. So that's our one-page strategy and our tactics to get that done. We share that with them. And the other thing we share with them is what we're tracking on for profit. We have shared that for many, many years after I was at a Vistage meeting, and a speaker talked about the open book management approach. And many of you have heard this study that was done by Sears and Roebuck back in the 80s or 90s, where the question they asked their employees at Sears was, how much profit do you suppose Sears keeps on every dollar of revenue that goes through the register? And I know many of you know the answer to this, but the median response was they guessed 45 cents. The real answer was, wish I could ask you if you know, but 2 cents. I sat in that Vistage meeting in 2001 and I went, OMG. They're seeing all this money we're making and they're thinking we're pocketing eventually was $143 million. So we started doing open book at that point in a much deeper way than we do today. But here was the adage that they shared at that Vistage meeting that made such a difference to me. They said, in the absence of a story, people make up their own. In the absence of a story, people make up their own. So I would rather be in control of the story. And it's about abundance is about communication and being willing to share information. So that is about be abundant. And I'm going to need to move a little faster here to open up, have time for questions. So I'm going to move at rocket speed here. The next one is make magic, which is create positive energy through celebration. I wanted there to be great energy. I don't like being someplace where it's like, oh, this is awkward. I want energy. And I believe that where there's energy, it's filled with joy and celebration. Some of the actual behaviors we have are, number one, exercise gratitude. Next week at Tasteless Simple is Gratitude Week. Normally it used to be in the old days called Secretary's Day. Then it was Administrative's Day or week. We changed it into Gratitude Week. So on Monday, we're having rolls and juice. Tuesday, we're having Taco Tuesday. Wednesday, we're having Wacky Wednesday, where there's games and they can earn different things. They pick a number between 1 and, we're doing this virtually for some of them too, 1 through 75. And then we give them whatever number they pick. They get, maybe it's a half a day of PTO. It might be a $5 gift certificate to Dairy Queen. And then we do Thirsty Thursday, which is happy hour, and we'll do that virtually and we'll do it live, socially distanced. We call it wine by the windows or beer on the patio if it's in the summer. And we just hang out. So it's expressing that gratitude with intention and with processes. The second behavior under Make Magic is celebrate what you want to see more of. In our birthday party each year in June, we have awards that are based on, the only awards we have are based, no, I take that back, one exception, is based on our 4 principles. And they're nominated from their peers. And then we also have a change maker award. When we were going through our turnaround, we said anybody who has come up with an idea to help us save money or drive sales in a creative way, you're a change maker. You can be nominated as a change maker. And then we also have an award for Spirit of Tastefully Simple, which is the big kahuna, where it's the person in the company that's living all of our principles, and they get a 1-week stay at a place in Austin, Texas called Sunset River Retreat that Tastefully Simple used to own, and then I bought when we needed money in the business. So, and then we have one just for our leaders, which is called the Mighty Oak, and I won't get into why it's called Mighty Oak. So that's the second one, celebrate what you want to see more of. Third one is have fun. The description is create joy with celebratory rituals, take your work seriously, but take yourself lightly. The reason angels can fly is because they don't take themselves seriously. Number 4 is show people they're valued and never let a good thing go unsaid. And I'm going to share one thing that was very helpful to me about when we express to somebody that we appreciate them. We now call it the 2 S's of feedback. Be sincere and be specific. And when we say be specific, we train our leaders and other people when they share a kudo and they thank someone or congratulate them via an email or whatever. I just had an example. We were working on our national conference and our agenda, and we had a brainstorming session for a few hours this morning. And I sent an email out to Connie, who was a champion of that. And I said, Connie, excellent meeting this morning. But then you give them specific examples, and I always give at least 2 and most of the time 3. And you don't have to say, I'll give you why, I'm telling you why, but I said, it was an excellent meeting this morning. It was strategic, it was interactive, and it was productive. You give them 3 specific reasons in your feedback about why you value them, instead of just saying, excellent job. So just a little helpful hint there. The other one is do your best and stir a spark through excellence. And this we train them on, and the behaviors are engage in project work smart. I don't know if any of you deal with this, but I hate it when people don't get alignment before they start doing the work. It's a waste of time. So the very first thing I say as a descriptor is before work is started, have alignment on the vision. The second one is know how you will measure success. You guys get that joke. Number 3 is inspect what you expect. It's not micromanaging. It's inspect what you expect, as Walt Disney would say. Number 4 is under promise and over deliver. The best relationships have matched expectations and under promise and over deliver. Number 5 is apply the 5 sets of eyes rule. And if you guys want a copy of these, I'm happy to send those to you as well. Apply the 5 sets of eyes rule, which is when you're coming out with a new project, to send it out to 5 people in HQ that have never seen the project, have no idea. And people have so often said to me, but they won't understand because they're not a consultant. I said, if they don't understand, then a new consultant won't understand. So have 5 people look at it that are unrelated to the project. Number 6 is to collaborate. And number 7 is to simplify, which we've already talked a little about that. And the last one is called Be Real, which used to be called the Law of Realness, which was 1999 that I came out with the word realness, which is just so funny now to hear people using that word. I'm like, wow, I made that word up. But and it was the Law of Realness, which we now simplify as just be real. And this was the one that was the hardest to come up with as a principle. But I thought, what is it? I could have all these things going in a company, but I'm telling you, the companies that I want to be with are ones that I trust. And why do I trust them? I trust them because they're humble enough to, number 1, go to the source is our first behavior. Go to the source, no gossiping, nothing passive aggressive. You look for solutions. Number 2, you admit mistakes. And this is probably one of the biggest adages that everybody in the company uses. And it is that I reserve the right to get smarter. And we reserve the right to get smarter. Take 100% responsibility, reserve the right to get smarter, and move on. Number 3 is be candid and honest and do not butter it up, yet be considerate. People respect you for being genuine. I'm going to give you a quick example, and that is in 2017, we're hurting in a major way financially. We have to change our compensation plan for our sales force. We were taking away benefits, incentives, and it was a massive change. We were moving so fast, and I wasn't leading the team at that point. So, I didn't step in as much as I should have and could have. And I made a mistake. I reserved the right to get smarter. I did not engage in the change management of engaging our top leaders and helping them understand why we were doing it and what we were doing and communicating. We were moving too fast. The second mistake I made is I said to the team we were all working on this whole project and how we were going to communicate all the changes. Sat around, I can still remember it with like yesterday, sitting around that table, and I said, I want to be able to tell them we have to do this. There's no choice, you guys. Every one of them said, don't do that. That's suicide. Don't do that. Don't do that. We announced it on July 1st. 4th of July weekend rolls around. I'm getting emails from leaders who trusted me enough to be honest and go to the source. I end up calling them over the 4th of July weekend, talking it through. I finally said, should I be coming out with a video and telling them why I did this? And they said, yes. So 3 or 4 days later, I come out with a video to everybody and say, I screwed up. I did not tell you why, and you need to understand why. We're going to come through this, but it didn't. We still had a lot of people leave our company because they were fearful. But I could have done that earlier and it would have saved a lot of people. I know it would have. So be candid and honest. Number 4 is cut the fluff and the corporate lingo. Won't get into that, but I hate it when people try to impress me with how verbose they are. And number 5 is connect with the heart and connect with those strong relationships, a hug, a phone call, a handwritten card, or a kind word. So those are the principles. In closing, the reason that these principles, though, as I look back today, which is when we learn our lessons as leaders, is I've learned that the most important and critical thing we do as a leader is to influence thinking. And that's what our principles and our values do. When we do it in a way that they can retain them, because they're short, they're concise, they're repeatable, because thoughts control emotions and emotions control actions. I can tell you, I do not believe we ever would have saved those people, the 73 people that we have in our company, if we had not, and our sales force, because we took a dramatic decline. We would have lost those people if they didn't believe in us and our culture. And in closing, someone once said to me in the very early years, in the first 3-4 years of the company, they said, you know what, Jill, it's easy to have a great culture when you're small. And I beg to differ. I believe that when we protect, that we will protect our culture when we're intentional and when we are consistently beating that drum. That is when we will have a great culture, no matter how large we get. So there you go. That's the rest of the story, Steve.